One of the big sort of storylines that we've been following, in particular over the last 6 months, over the last year, certainly in the kind of Trump era, is the reality that the modern American right wing and the Republican Party have this list of stated values which mean almost nothing to them as soon as the values start to conflict with the real world circumstances and the specifics and the outcome that they want. They claim to have values which they immediately abandon as soon as those values are inconvenient to the policy that they want or to their perspective on any kind of particular issue. I have another example of this for you today, which is Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And this is really serious. The reason that this is the first story today is that this is really, really serious. Marjorie Taylor Greene is now saying that there should be a sort of grace period or cooling off period when Democrats move to a red state from a blue state before they should be allowed to vote. Now, this goes against all election law, voting law, enfranchisement of voters in the United States. It goes against everything, not even from a logistical standpoint. It goes against even the idea, the values of how this country works and how voting works. And it is, in fact, a sort of California version of the Great Replacement theory, which comes from France, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So let me go through this piece by piece. Newsweek reporting, Marjorie Taylor Greene calls it wise to bar Democrats who move to red states from voting. What? If red states and blue states were to divorce each other, that's the word she's been using, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene called it possible that people who move from a Dem state to a Republican state would be barred from voting for a temporary, quote, cooling off period. What is this about? Well, California, Newsweek writes, has seen an influx in people moving out of the state, many going to Texas and Florida, where residents get more bang for their buck. However, some, including Greene, have complained that those who are leaving California, bringing their political beliefs with them and potentially shifting the political landscape. Yesterday, she posted on Twitter, brainwashed people who move from California and New York need a cooling off period. Her comment was in response to a Twitter user who wrote he supports discriminating against Democratic transplants, including restricting their ability to vote for a period of time. Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote on Twitter, all possible. So Pedro Gonzalez wrote, I support actively discriminating against transplants through legislation. They shouldn't be able to vote for a period, and they should have to pay a tax for their sins. And Marjorie Taylor Greene added to that, saying, after Democrat voters and big donors ruin a state like California, you would think it wise to stop them from doing it to another great state like Florida. Brainwashed people that move from California and New York really need a cooling off period. This is not legal. There is no legal basis for this. They say that they are fighting the left's voter fraud, absentee ballot, massive dumps of votes. You guys know all this stuff. We're sick of it by now. And that they are all about legal voting. Well, when you move to a new state, you can legally vote there right away. There is no legal basis. There is no constitutional basis. There is no ideological, and I mean by that the idea of the founders of this country, by which you should be restricted from voting when you move for some period of time. And this is part of the full-scale war on our voting institutions that Republicans are waging. This is not like an offhanded joke. When we talk about the coup attempt, when we talk about all of that in the context of 2020, she believes this. She believes this, and there's a really good chance that many of the other Republicans and Trumpists believe it as well. We can't laugh this off. They don't want democracy. They want to pay lip service to the idea of a democratic republic, when in reality what they want is their sort of authoritarian, tyrannical rule by what is increasingly a shrinking minority ideologically. And that's an important thing to remember. Ideologically, these people are increasingly in the minority. This is the Great Replacement theory applied to California. We've talked about the Great Replacement theory before. This comes from France. This is a white nationalist conspiracy theory. It was disseminated by the French author Renaud Camus, and it states that with the complicity or cooperation of replacist elites, the white French population and white European populations at large, this is from Wikipedia, are being demographically and culturally replaced with non-European peoples. And at the time, from the late 19th century when this originates, they were talking about Arabs, Berbers, Turks, and sub-Saharan Muslims through mass migration. We have talked about Tucker Carlson paying lip service to a sort of American version of the Great Replacement theory when he talks about immigrants coming from typically Central and South America, making the country dirtier and poorer, as he says. And the idea of Democrats wanting to bring as many of these folks into the country to get them to vote to win elections. That's the Great Replacement theory, just applied from 19th century France and Europe to the United States in the 21st century. Marjorie Taylor Greene's fear-mongering is based on the same principle, which is they're going to, in this case, it's liberals, and what were the words that she used? Brainwashed liberals who have committed sins coming from California and New York to Florida and Texas and maybe her state of Georgia as well. It's the same idea. It's the idea of this plague or dirty infection from outside coming in and replicating and taking over our states like a parasite attaching itself to a host. It is the exact same line of thinking. 19th century France, Tucker with brown people from Mexico, Marjorie Taylor Greene, liberals from California and New York going to Florida and Texas. If we ignore it, this stuff will continue to take hold, because if Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying it, it's because a bunch of her constituents already believe it, and we know that they do. So that's her idea. We are, of course, horrified to see it, but at the same time, need a strategy to activate against it. Not the voting piece. There's no legal basis for what she wants. But these ideas are sadly spreading. And not only are they spreading, it's becoming more acceptable to say it in public, which is a big part of the problem.
One of our sponsors is Magic Spoon breakfast cereal, sweet and tasty like the cereals I loved as a kid, but without the sugar or the carbs. Every serving of Magic Spoon has 0 grams of sugar, only 4 net carbs, 140 calories, and packed with 13 grams of protein. Perfect if you're doing keto, perfect if you're doing low carb, great if you're just trying to reduce your excess sugar intake, and because it's packed with protein, it's great before or after a workout. Magic Spoon flavors include cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, and cinnamon. They're bringing back cookies and cream. They're bringing back maple waffle. You can build your own variety box and try them all. Magic Spoon is so confident in the product, if you don't love it as much as I do, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Go to magicspoon.com/Pacman. The link is underneath this video, and you'll get $5 off when you use the promo code Pacman at checkout.